All right. So with that, I'm happy to introduce our guest speaker today, Dr. Kumar. So he is an assistant professor of the School of Sustainable Engineering in the Built Environment, and his research is focused on satellite and aerial remote sensing to better understand water systems. And today he's going to talk about a recently completed NSF project that he was a part of in collaboration with the University of South Florida, Alabama A&M University, and ASU that sought to enhance student engagement and learning outcomes through innovative flipped classroom methodologies and adaptive pre-class content. He'll also share student responses and engagement levels across three teaching methods, so traditional flipped and adaptive flipped, and offer insights into their effectiveness and impact. So welcome, Dr. Kumar, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Christian, and thanks for this opportunity. Let me try sharing my slides and make sure that works. There we go. Everybody sees my slide fine, right? So I think we will have plenty of time to go through the presentation. So I hope to make this a more interactive. I don't know if it screws up your recording session, but if you have any question, feel free to stop me wherever you are, or speak up. I suppose that's the way I can react. So let me so just stop me wherever you need to. I'll be happy to go over something to clarify. So uh, okay, let me thank a few people because without them, this would not have been possible. And I saw on the attendee list, the list, there were a few other people that I should probably have thanked there. Christian Ward is somebody that I really need to thank because early on when I was getting into this course, she really helped me set up and set this course up, and I'll help. And I suppose our director Ram, who nudged me or probably shoved me to take on this course as soon as I joined the SU. And then Keith, many of you probably know him. He has been very helpful in navigating this. So these are people from ASU, but this whole project was Dr. Kaur's doing. And again, I really like his bio. That's why I put it up there. So open course first advocate, social neurodiversity champion, one pony pedagogy assailant, UDL believer, and replicating education research studier and supporter. So I suppose he is the kind of person who will take this on. And Dr. Clark at University of Pittsburgh, she did all the data wrangling, and I'm going to present a lot of numbers, which are actually coming from her data analysis in there. And we had this project was simultaneously taken up in three universities, USF by Dr. Kaur. I was handling here at ASU, and then Andrew Scott was doing that at Alabama A&M. So we're going to see some of those stuff here too. Um, and I know my question read it out. It said that I'm going to talk about uh, lecture style too, but I left that out. So it's just flipped and flipped adaptive. We all agree here flipped is works. Now the question is, how do we make flip better? And does this adaptive method that we are trying to work with, does it help? And that's really what I'm going to focus this on. So well, this is a group that doesn't need this, but anyway, I'll put this slide in there. What is flipped classroom? And again, FSE has a brilliant page which talks about flipped classroom, and I'm sure there's the link out here. But flipped classroom, the idea is to promote active and peer learning. So I suppose the big thing that we are trying to get to the flipped classroom is that we can handle the complex questions when in class where we have very limited time when we interact with students as instructors. So how do we best use use this time? I suppose with flipped classroom, we say that we can use it to tackle complex questions instead of just delivering lectures. And it sounds great. And there have been lots of advantages to it, including some which I've listed here: student engagement, interaction and collaboration among students. And sometimes on a complex question, if you're stuck, you can potentially get instant feedback. So there are benefits to flipped classroom, and we all agree to it, right? I think yeah, I'm preaching to the choir here, um, but there are issues. So one of the things that and this there was a similar study conducted on lecture-based versus flipped classroom. That was before. That was not. I was not participant. I was not a part of that study, but essentially they found that there were issues. And few of the issues that's worth mentioning were the increased workload for instructors. They've like obviously you have to do a bunch. I think the second one is student accountability and essentially you are trusting students to look at the videos and or whatever material set that you have created. And if they don't, then the whole system breaks down rather quickly. So if the background is not there and you are trying to give students some questions or to work on in a group even, it's really hard to catch up. So and then there are of course classroom management challenges and I think the last part is also interesting, perhaps not so much in ASU, but does everybody have access to the resources that you're providing and can they access it reasonably easily? So that's digital access inequality is also something to be thoughtful, mindful about. But the big thing that we are trying to address here is how do we nudge students to do what they are supposed to do before class, and so that they are better prepared to take in what you are giving them in class, work with the questions and things like that. So that's where the adaptive part comes in. So yeah, hang on. Okay. So I got this nice little graphic on flipped classroom from the UT Austin site. And again, it's Creative Commons, so I suppose there's no problem posting it. And with attribution. So this is a nice idea of what flipped classroom looks like. So you have your student cohort working in and doing some activities in class. You can apply those, and later they go back and they can perhaps revise. What adaptive does, or where at least the way I am describing adaptive, is we are doing some stuff which helps students assess how well they are doing in 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 uh, in doing their work pre-class, and then it also helps the instructors figure out how well they have done pre-class and what are the pain points, and really get a lot of metrics on what the specific aspects of the material that you want students to look at is is uh, is uh, is really troubling generally, or maybe some parts that everybody knows. So that's how. So that's where really adaptive comes in. And there's another part of the adaptive is that you can potentially anticipate and create modules. There's maybe some students don't have the background, so you can if students making a particular kind of mistake in answering questions while they are taking the pre-class videos, you can potentially give them some uh, some basic background modules to work with. And all this is designed in a way that the adaptive module takes care of it. So I'm going to show you what it looks like to students and what it looks like to instructor. So I'm going to walk you through some of those things. So this is implementation for the student. I was, by the way, I'm teaching. I adapted this for the numerical methods for civil engineers course. Numerical methods again is a course that most engineers do take. So the lessons probably is widely applicable in FSE. And so I found out that I cannot take screenshots anymore because the connection from Canvas to the adaptive platform that we were using has doesn't work anymore. So, but thankfully, I made a video earlier to explain students what the module will look like to them. So I'm going to play that video, and again, feel free to pause me if something is not clear, it goes too fast. I'll try to do a I'll try to pause the videos and give you some inputs when necessary. Okay. So first thing is like the whole adaptive platform was the way we implemented it was connected through Canvas. So it's not that you have to go somewhere else. There were links on Canvas and integrated there. So I'm going to mute this because it's going to be probably easier if I just talk about this thing. So I promise you in a second it will go to some module. Hey. Yeah, I think I'm just introducing what this is. Okay, let's go a little bit forward. Okay, so students start with their modules and they can access so the whole course was divided into various modules, and so the classwork for every week was divided into modules. So they can scroll down to the module, and here we go. And depending on what they have to work on, you can click on the module and this adaptive lessons will come up. And this lesson, the way it was set up, this page will give them a link which will be connected to the platform, which was Realize IT. And what this platform does, and I'm going to pause this a second here, is it gives you the learning map. So what are the modules that you need to learn and what is expected. And then the students can browse through it and work through it. And some of them are logged until you compare these earlier modules, you will not be able to do more advanced modules. You know what? Maybe I should put this sound on if it works okay. Is it okay? Can you guys hear this fine? My narration? Not at all?
No, can't hear it. Sorry.
Okay. So okay, let me go back a second then. Okay. So essentially, like this is one of the modules, and this is about errors. And what it's doing here is start with the first part, and you watch some videos on it. And the point I'm trying to make here is that there are some locked module, and we created these modules before class, right? So we have already created these modules. We have anticipated what the path should be and where students may have issues, and also created some background modules. If students are having some kind of issue, we can direct them to the background module. So here what happens is a student will start at this true error. And once they finish this true error, so let's say if they click on it, they're going to. So once this comes up, you see a screen like this where you can just, what are the learning objectives? And then there is a bunch of videos there. So throughout this course, we had several ways that you can get the same information. One was through videos, and other we had a HTML textbook, and the sections of which are available through this interactive module. We had a PDF book, and we had a course textbook too, if you like your physical books. So all these were available, and you had the choice. The students had the choice to choose any of these. Most, of course, use the video, which is the easiest and the fastest way to do this. So if you wanted an alternate version, you can just say, yes, add alternate version to the lesson path, and that will add the alternate version. So essentially, like some chapters from the textbook and things like that will be added. You can see this. And once you finish your modules, and you finish watching the videos or the way you consume it, there were some questions that essentially are testing how much did you gain out of the whatever you watched or whatever exercise that you do. And these questions were, again, we had a set of questions, but then the questions that were shown to you depend on how well or how how poorly you performed. So, so now you will not necessarily see all the questions. So you will see only if you're doing well, maybe after two questions, say, okay, that's good enough. But if you want, you can go and do practice. And so say you're preparing for a test, the students can go and practice this, and then they can access all the questions one by one if they need to. Okay, I'll let this go a little bit forward. Any doubt, anything?
Saurav, I have a question.
Oh, sure. I'll pause it for a second then. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how many different paths we can propose to a student and what's the difference between them. So it looks adaptive. Is there like one path usually? When I look at your previous screen, it showed that you have to go through overview, then video, then there's the chapters.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out is there another path and what's the difference between them?
Sure. Okay. So I think I did not explain this, but essentially, what I mean with the by paths, is so once you click on one of these, I hope you can see my mouse here. So once you
Yes, I
click on
can.
one of these, so this is kind of the path that you are following right now. So once you click
Mm-hmm.
on all of this is very fixed. This is very rigid. So you cannot
Mm-hmm.
change what really we have curated for you. So you would need to you probably have to, and because you want to unlock them, you have to work with them. But let's say this module was, let's say we did make it, and
I think you're breaking out.
oh, okay. So this, is it better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I was saying that once you click on this, it's very rigid. So you have to do the modules. But what we can do is if you were not able, we see that you're answering the questions incorrectly. And then what we can do is give you a different path. So those are essentially mostly stuff like background knowledge information. So what we can do is, and this is just quantifying error, so relatively simple thing, but if we are doing something like which needs matrix multiplication and you don't remember how it worked, or something with matrices, so we can give you a module, it will give you a module, and it will put that in your learning path, a module which does something else.
So it doesn't show up originally in your learning
No, it doesn't
path.
show up originally on it. So
Yeah,
originally
based upon your response, you might be given an alternative material, right?
Yes, exactly. That's what happens.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So initially everything is very rigid. And so I think to create an incentive for for students to finish this, we have this mastery thing, which there's a green star here. So depending on how well you're answering, and you can retake the test again. There was generally an encouragement to get all mastery on everything. And again, this is just showing that you can retake it. And let's say you do not remember something, and if you want, you can also choose not to save your answers. And it's kind of interesting that this is one of the things that a lot of students used, because they were trying to get the mastery and the first go for some reason, and they will try to look at the questions and then come back and answer it again second time. So but it serves the purpose of learning. So that's great. But it added some more work that students had to do. So that's okay. And then so this is what I'm telling you. So you can discard the progress. So you don't so nothing is really saved. And so that works too. So this is what the students saw, and I think that's pretty much it. And so you had to do some of the lessons to unlock the other lessons. So you cannot just jump to a different lesson to finish it. So essentially, before class, students had to do this. So and we were collecting a bunch of information. Now, how does it help me? In the next few slides, I'm going to discuss what informations did I get and how did I use that to help help develop my lectures and in-class work. So again, I think I pointed this out, but as I said, that only few problems were actually shown, depending on how well or how poorly you're doing, then the problems will be different. So, but if students wanted to practice, especially before your test, you can go and click practice, and then you can browse through all the problems that we have put up in there. So that was something that a lot of students used actually. And that helped me that I don't have to create a practice set. All right, so what does it look like for me? And I'm not going to go into how did we create this, but how did I use it in day to day. So one of the cool things that I used to like is when you're solving a problem, if a student has a, go ahead. Was it a question? No, okay. So I'm sorry, I may have. Okay, so one of the cool things is this to do. So if I'm solving a problem and if students are solving a problem and there is something which is not very clear. For example, this is the slope of a line and they have to find and this is a very nice example here, but they have to find what the correlation coefficient is. The student figured out how to solve it, but they were not sure about the sign. So they can, while they're facing them, give me put a short note and say, where are they stuck? And usually somebody in the teaching team can get to them very quickly. So I used to check this very often. So and also so did the TAs and RAs. So they could get back to them very quickly on oh, this is the issue that you are having. So this was a pretty nice neat interface. And then I could also see this. And so the blue line is just I didn't want to put student names out there. So that's just hiding that. So there are student names here. And what you can see is for a particular module, and I think, I don't know which module is this, but how much have they covered? Each students have covered. And what's there are two things here, overall knowledge covered and overall knowledge state. So knowledge covered is how much of the video and the path you have watched, and state is how well did you do answering questions and things like that. So that's just quick idea, and you can probably pick here. I'm showing you a test student which did not do anything, but you can pick how things are going. So this, if I wanted to, I can also drill down into on students and see which. So this is these on the Y in the x-axis now are all the modules that we have created, and this is on the left is for one student, and the right is for another student. So on the left we can see how they performed, and also how much time did they spend on each module. And so you can see some people spend a lot of time, some people did not. And you can also see which modules are particularly challenging. For example, the student on the left did not even consider floating point module. This is the module out here. And on the student on the right did spend a reasonably high amount of time on floating point module. And there's a reason why, because I was not going to test students on floating point. I have told them. So they decided, some people decided they're going to still do this and learn it, and some people did not. So this gives me a quick understanding of what's happening. And if I want to drill down on students, I can figure out what's going to happen. And again, also the time spent is this was the most interesting stat that I was looking at, is how much time each module is taking. Okay. So this was, again, for the very similar graph for all the objectives. That was student by student. This is really all the objectives, how objectives are performing. And then final stats was this analytics, which is again telling me how much students are going through interacting with a particular module. There are a few other graphs here I'm going to go through, how much time they spend, and over time as the course progressed, how much time are they spending? Maybe they and again, this module, the floating point module, a lot of students spend a lot of time on it. And over time, as things progressed, I think the last few modules were pretty hard, but the students were not spending time on it. And you can see they're revising too. So this is probably for the revision. The time spent towards the end on other modules, which were covered early, is probably for the revision. So you can kind of get an idea of a really database idea of how your students are interacting with the whole course. And again, very similar things you can look at now that you can drill this by every student, how they're doing, and you can potentially pick out students who may need some support. I can write a note to them or something and offer some help with your teaching team. So these were the kind of things that were available to me. One of the things that I really enjoyed, and I think I put it out there, is before class, I will look at how many correct and incorrect questions were answered for which question students were having trouble with. So every question had different versions. It's the same question, but different versions. Students will see it differently. So if there is a particular question where people are having trouble with, I would add that to the in-class work. So I had a set in-class work, but I'll make some addition and subtraction based on what I see, what people are doing on their interactive work. So that helped me make my class more relevant without really asking students to say, hey, tell me what we're struggling with. Okay, so this part, we did not do this, but USF, at ASU, we did not do this, but USF, they went one step further. What they did was they developed the predictive model, and using the first few weeks of how students were performing, they tried to predict which students are likely to get a C or less. And they offered one-on-one instruction or one-on-one guidance for those students. And it's the remarkable thing is only 23% of students accepted that support. And then and even of the people who accepted the support, they not everybody did well, but most did. And the model itself missed out 20% of students who eventually ended up getting a less than C, but they were not flagged early on. So the model was not very accurate. It was not adopted at ASU. There's all kinds of issues with, I'm sure people using machine learning to pick and give special resources. It gets into lots of trouble. But anyway, so USF did this. It did work out to some extent, but was not terribly useful. So I just wanted to put it in there. So there was some predictive modeling. We didn't do it though. Okay, ASU. Okay, so now this is all the results that we got from this study. This is how I implemented this, and this is what the results look like. All right, so this is just how many students. So again, I'm just doing flipped and flipped with adaptive. I'm not showing you the stuff which was just lecture based. So that part, we all agree flipped is better. So now flipped and flipped with adaptive is what we are looking at. So for ASU, it turned out the number of students, this is ASU here, spring 23, fall 23. We have very similar students. It was not by design, it just happened to be same. So 41 students both times. And so we did conduct a demographic survey. That's why you can see this, all these things. This was, we had an IRB on this, and the folks at UPenn did this survey for us. So assessments. So there was a bunch of assessments that we were conducting, and I almost feel like assessment. There were so many assessments that students were getting really annoyed with this, but we need to work on that. But so we had a demographic survey towards the start of the course, and so it was a voluntary participation. So students can choose to participate or not to participate. That's the usual stuff. They were given an extra credit for it, but you can also get that extra credit by doing a small essay or something. So we had some direct assessment. So the direct assessment was through the final exam. And the final exam, we had two sets, multiple choice questions, which basically test the lower level skills. And then we had free response questions, long questions where you had to solve problems and stuff. And that was designed for high level thinking. And then again, these two the final exam was same. So we tried and we did this. So we kept the final exam secrets. So nobody was allowed to take it back or things like that. So thankfully, it was not widely available outside. And all three schools were using the same exam. So there were some issues with Alabama A&M and the free response question. So they did not do this once. But besides that, everybody was using the exam. There is also there was a classroom environment survey that was conducted. Oh, wait, there was also a concept inventory test, which is a multiple choice question. So this was designed by a group of folks who are teaching the numerical methods course. And this is designed to test how well students are doing with numerical methods. So that was already existing. So we are applying that course here too, applying that exam here too. This is a multiple choice question type. And then there was a classroom environment survey. So this is, again, a predefined instrument that we were using. And the students towards the end of the last week were asked to do a survey online. And then there were some focus groups. So focus groups were after your finals, or maybe sometimes it had to be done before finals still. So focus group were in person. So we basically asked, we were trying to get 10 or 12 people to sit down with Renee, Dr. Clark, and then talk to them. And she had a bunch of questions for that. And students were given $25 gift card incentive to join the focus group. And then finally, that's not done. We also had an evaluation survey, so which was really pooled for everybody. So it's not ASU specific. And then we also had ASU evaluation, by the way. So there was quite a bit of confusion there, but we navigated this. And these are the results. So this is I'm showing you the ASU results. So I think a good way to look at this is to look at this effect column G here. And almost nothing is significant. So just the effect, not a non-significant effect, is what we are trying to look at. So we found there was no effect, at least measured through final exam for ASU. That was not the case for everybody else. There was some effect in, so this is for the, let me orient everybody what is happening. So this is the MCQ multiple choice question part of the final exam. And these are the effects for the multiple choice question. And this is the free response part for the final exam. And these are response for the free response questions. So there was a slight improvement with, I suppose, which was not significant though, with the folks who transferred in from other schools. And then that's it. And besides that, there was not much gain. There was, in fact, some decline in other places too. So this is now a concept inventory test. So again, the transfers with associate were the only beneficiary really, and everybody else we didn't see much change in ASU. However, that was not the case with the. Okay, before we go to the AS thing, we will look at, before we go compare these three schools together, let's look at the classroom inventory too. Again, let me try to orient you what you're looking at. This is for the classroom inventory thing that was testing for cohesiveness, individualization, innovation. So this is a battery of questions that were supposed to test for these things. And the good part was there was satisfaction and task orientation was statistically significant and positive results. So at least that we have results for. But the unexplained part was that the individualization, which we thought we were increasing, did not show that, at least at ASU. And there are a bunch of other numbers that are available, and I was hoping that the paper would be published by now so that we can share it widely, but it's not yet, but I'll be happy to share these. So you can see these tables for all the other schools and other tests too. So I'm not going to present too many more numbers here, but I want to make a point that it actually varied with universities. So this is ASU, this is Alabama A&M, this is USF. The reason USF has 3 is because they also did this one-on-one. So FO is flipped with one-on-one, AO is adaptive and 101 based on their predictive model. So we don't want to discuss that. The black one is FA flipped adaptive, which is comparable to this. So what you're looking at is just the effect size. And this is for the exams. For the custom inventory. So you saw some changes, and you can see quite clearly how different this was for different schools. And Alabama A&M did benefit a bunch with applying adaptive, but which we did not see that benefit here. For ASU, it was very flat. So we also did some some subjective, but we later coded this focus groups and other evaluation. So generally, there was a preference for flipped instruction when adaptive technique was used. So they enjoyed. There was a gain there. There was a gain in perception of learning. Students felt that the responsibility imposed on them is going down. But I think the key thing that I wanted to highlight here is the last point here. One of the things that I always hear is there's too much load on students because now you are making them learn and then come to school, and then you have to do their homeworks again because they have to prepare for tests. So that you are actually including their workload. So it seemed like with adaptive, there was some perception of a little bit less of increase in the workload. So people were mentioning loads less in their focus groups, or when they're discussing problems with this flipped system, they were discussing load less. So the whole big picture summary is that generally adaptive learning, we have evidence that it generally helps to enhance student experience when you're doing flipped, but it's not very conclusive in every field. We would love to see that statistically significant positive results everywhere, but that's not what we got. And also the other thing was it depended on the university where it was implemented, how much benefit students get.